Otherwise, I introduce the Drukpa Lineage. And I think it deserves to be introduced because it's not well known. Otherwise, why introduce it? And it's not well known, and I must say it's the first time I introduce it to this sort of audience in an academic setting. I have been sometimes presenting and introducing Buddhism, but not to academics. And I have been doing research at academic level, but not about Buddhism and the Drukpa Lineage as a tradition, but as a historian. I am doing research in the heritage and the history of the Drukpa Lineage, especially in the Western Himalayas where I live. So I'm based between Ladakh and Lahore, which are today parts of India, and used to be part long time ago of the great Tibetan Empire that brought Buddhism from the Indian plains up to the Himalayas. And you may know this big empire collapsed, but it continues as a big kingdom in the Western Himalayas. So I'm into that part, interested in that history, which is not well known. People who study Tibetan Buddhism or the Himalayas, they are very much into Tibet, and they forget there was this huge entity, at a time very huge, at time smaller. We'll go into that, but not so much. I wish I can talk about that in another place, because it's not so much about Buddhism, it's about maybe geopolitics. And in very short, the subtitle is the yogic tradition of the divine madmen, because it is a yogic tradition, and it is the tradition of the divine madmen, which is a type of Buddhist masters quite specific to Tibet, but I think we find holy, almost crazy holy people in many traditions, and Buddhism is a good place for that kind of development of one's own spiritual realization as an external manifestation. In Tibet, the main divine madmen are all Drukpa. So I made it short like that, but it's not only a tradition of divine madmen. I'm not divine and I'm not a man. I may be a bit bad, but hopefully not too much. I go to the proper name of the Drukpa Lineage. This is today it's sort of local, but it's based on ancient presentation. You could find this on different items, on seals. You recognize, I guess you all know a little bit about Buddhism tonight. On the top of this image, these are the three jewels blazing. And in the middle is the wheel of the Dharma, the right path, the 8 branches. In the middle of that we have the word, which is Druk. Druk means dragon, and you have 2 dragons, holding or upholding the wheel of the Dharma. And the reason why this lineage is called Druk is because of this place, which is in the background, which you can see also in the next photo. But I come back here to the proper name of the lineage. It's written in the banner, Drukpa. I put it in the transliteration, Drukpa, which literally means the glorious Drukpa, lineage of the ultimate. And this makes the connection with yogic tradition and even madmen, because relatively you cannot be mad. If you're a Buddhist, you believe that everything leads to a result. So if you're mad, you're going to get crazy results. But this is the lineage of the ultimate, and what it means. I don't know how many of you know Tibetan and want me to go. I can go into explaining how the words have come together, but I don't know. It's much more for people who know Tibetan.
Many people in the room do know Tibetan. I don't, but many of the audience do.
Okay, good, very good. So first word which is striking here is glorious. I don't know what it rings to you. To me, it's like Hollywood, and we are not at all in this type of glorious. It's the word madmen here, which we translate in English as glorious, and in Tibetan, when you have 2 syllables, they start giving 2 meanings, and you can go very far. So the first syllable of this word glorious, palden, is about the glory of having realized the purity state of your own mind, or the clarity state of your own mind, which is the ultimate state of the mind and of the phenomena, first glory. And the second one is that you are able to convey it to others and get them to realize it as well. That's another glory. That's why it's called the glorious lineage and of the dragon. And then the lineage of the ultimate means it's a lineage that doesn't focus much on the relative truth. And that means it's not a bookish lineage. We don't like words. We don't like books. We don't like teachings. So I think it's very daring, especially with someone who has not realized the ultimate, to talk about that. There's nothing to say. As you know, the Buddha himself, after reaching enlightenment, said, there's nothing to say. So that's exactly what the Drukpa lineage is. And that is why it is not well known, especially in the West, when we approach Buddhism from an intellectual perspective. We have a tendency, especially in universities. And this lineage is not a lineage of books. It's a lineage actually of meditators in caves at very high altitudes. And there are very few scholars who go there. Western scholars. So it has somehow remained quite unnoticed. Now about dragon, the little story. The problem is about stories. I don't know if you like stories or you want facts or you want what is being said. Within Asian tradition or even any tradition, it's all about stories. And it's going to be difficult not to tell you stories. As a historian, I am sort of I cannot tell stories. I have to write history and do research and go really to the facts. But this is not a history of the lineage. It's more about the story of the lineage. What I came to know, I think in such a venerable place like Oxford, it's a shame to say, but I was not into history and not interested in history before becoming a Buddhist nun. I thought I'm born in 68, and in France this is the time of a cultural revolution where we thought we have not much to do with the past. And I guess I'm marked by that. But when we are in Vajrayana, in Tibetan Buddhism, we really get the essence of our practice from our master, who got it from his master, who got it from his master, and we invoke that. There was something that we discussed today in the class we had, prayer to the lineage. So because I was into praying into lineage, I had to, who are these guys? My God, when did they live and what did they do? Plus, lately I had to do some research, and I am still in research, and I discovered that if I ask you, Stephen, who are you? You're going to tell me a story, right? So actually, we cannot go without story. So here is the story of the dragon. The founder of the lineage, of this lineage called the Drukpa Lineage, was enlightened and had received instructions from his master, plus some indication from visions and so forth, that he should go to a certain place in Tibet and found something, like an establishment. And when he arrived here, the story is that there were 9 dragons here. Yeah, I don't know if we can say that, but that is the story. And 9, and the story says 1 mother, 8 children. And when he arrived, he was not alone, he was with a group of disciples. And when they arrived here, he was looking for what was the place, somewhere. They flew up, and there were what is said sometimes to be roars of the dragons, or thunderclaps. And anyway, it's the same word in Tibetan. Drukta, the sound of the dragon, is the sound of the thunder. So imagine if you see that, or this happens to you, what do you think? Wow, you think, wow, that's it. So that's it. And this is called the place of the enlightenment of the place of enlightenment of the awakened dragons. And in short, dragons, Druk. And then he was called, he had his own name, and people called him the protector of the beings, Dogen. But in short, he was called the guy of the dragon, the dragon place and the dragon guy, and then the dragon lineage. That's where it comes from. So this, I got it, I copied it, I found it on internet. But I think it's very interesting. Self-effacing tradition is my wording. What I found is that, has a very long list of enlightened yogis, and that's pretty, many of these, that's many legacies. That's true, yet they remain unknown. That's very true, especially in contemporary world where people are more looking for internet or books to get information. And what is also true is that they are quoted and they are quite well known, the masters and the teachings, but it's never made reference to the root of the lineage. I'll give you an example which I think takes us quite far, but exactly illustrating my case, because I think you are all quite interested into mindfulness. And research into mindfulness, medical research into mindfulness, I really look here because there's a very interesting person, Dr. Herbert Manson. As you know, he's the one who was really breaking the ground by doing scientific research on meditators in the late 70s, early 80s. And he knew His Holiness Dalai Lama, and he went to see him and he said, "What do you think? Could I do research on meditators?" And His Holiness said, "Yes, you go and you find these guys and these guys and these guys." Nobody said, and nobody knows, except the guys which I know because they live in Ladakh, they are yogis. These guys were Drukpa. His Holiness said, "You go to the Drukpa. This is where you'll find the guys who are spending their life meditating on the ultimate and reaching visible results." And I came to know that really by chance. It's a little bit of a long story, but when I talked with meditators who live in a hermitage in Ladakh, they told me, they came. The first time they came and they had all their equipment, but they could not stay more than 10 minutes. They had all their big hats and jackets, and we were naked. So they had to go back and they had to rearrange so that they would do it in Manali. So this, you can find this film on YouTube. He's from Lahore. He's Lama, now we call him Lama Tajot. Here is the young man. Here is the bucket. You can see the video. They are putting the in the water and then putting that on their shoulder. It's in winter. It's February, and we are in Manali. It's almost 2,000 meters altitude. And then they are dyeing the sheets, and they have to dye as many as they can within as short time as possible. So this is in the film. The H is for, I think, for this I don't know, Herbert or whatever. It's a movie about his work. And I watched that and I said, "Hey, looks like this is Genkin Fair." And this is this Lama. And then I asked them, and they say yes. So you see, the yogis are known, their accomplishment is known, and the name of the lineage is not known, and is not known for the reason which I presented before. When you are in the ultimate, you don't care about telling your name as a lineage. So for those who don't know, Herbert Benson, he developed the idea that there is the flight and fight response, the stress thing, but there is also another state of being, physiological state, which we can cultivate. And then now it's known, it's mainstream, but in those days it had to be proven. Okay, now a bit of history. Where does this lineage come from? But, well, it comes from India. And I could spend, I tried when I rehearse, I can spend just the whole lecture on that. That would be a bit problematic because I want to save a few other things. So this is typically what we call Tibetan Buddhism. These are, however, Mahasiddhas, so special types of practitioners in India. And in the Drukpa lineage, the most important one is Naropa. If you don't know what is a Mahasiddha, maybe we'll keep that for later. But these are. Well, I'll show you one. This is from Chimre. It's a museum in Ladakh. It's a mural. Doesn't look like a monk, a proper monk. He's depicted with a fish because he was eating fishes when he was found by his disciple Naropa. He looked like a beggar, and if you look, he looks a little bit crazy, right? And that is typically a Mahasiddha. There are 84 which are very famous in the Himalayas, who were in India. He is a translator. He went to India. He received the teaching. He practiced them. He was able to translate them. He brought them to Tibet. Naropa told him after his third visit, told him, you don't need to come anymore. You don't need to stay with me. You just go back to Tibet. There will be recipients for what I'm transmitting to you. So when we talk about a lineage in this context, we are talking about transmitting the realization of the ultimate. We are doing good, lineage of the ultimate. So you got it, and there will be people able to receive it. And the one who received it was Milarepa. I think you know him. Well, if you don't, we'll discuss about him. And Milarepa had many disciples, and I have put in red people, masters who are very important. I mean, all of them are important because it's like a chain. You cannot remove anything at any level. But for the Drukpa lineage, more specifically important. Naropa is important because when he said to Marpa, you go back, he also gave him his own tantric theme, very personal script objects. And he said, you keep them, and after 7 generations, I will come in Tibet. And he took rebirth, and Dogen, who you remember, protector of the beings, the first Gyalwang-Gyupa, was recognized as Naropa. Until today, he's still holding all these objects and still regarded as the reincarnation of Naropa. So in red here, Milarepa in red because he is the first Tibetan Repa, naked yogi, living in the mountains, a little bit crazy. And then it's well known that he had 2 main disciples, completely enlightenment, receiving the realization of the ultimate. Gampopa compared to the sun, Lechungpa compared to the moon. And usually when we speak about them, in other lineages we mention Gampopa, we don't mention Lechungpa. In the Drukpa lineage we mention both. And I know from Western art historian that when they see a mural and they don't know because there were different lineages that branched out. From Gampopa they mean branching out, several lineages, and from his disciple Pamadrupa several lineages. So we have many, and they told me when we see Lechungpa we know it's Drukpa. And it's true, and that's why it's in red, and it's true because of something very special, which is a set of teaching that didn't go through Marpa and Milarepa, but from Naropa to Lechungpa. Lechungpa traveled to India. If you have read in detail the life of Milarepa, you may remember the detail when Milarepa told him, okay, then you go to India and you get the teaching that Marpa didn't get. And what happened is he got this teaching and he got the instruction, nobody is ready for them in Tibet, you hide them, and after 3 generations, someone will get them. Guess who got them? Naropa. This is Naropa, remember? So this is a lineage of Thermas which are specific to the Drukpa lineage, and which make Lechungpa very important in our lineage. Also because he was a yogi naked in the cave, whereas Gampopa was a monk who founded monasteries. Next master is Pamadrupa, then Linchen Repa, another Repa in the name. I mean, he was also a yogi, but you can see in the name Repa. Here Repa. Actually, you remove Chung and you have Repa, Lechungpa. And Sampagya Re, actually Re means Repa. And for this, that's all. I didn't put so many dates because I think it's crowding, and I don't know if you're into math here. One thing I want to say is, if you look at this number, you may notice it's 1,000 years ago. is quite interesting because we are going to celebrate that in the Himalayas. Okay, here you have a scale of dates. Is that useful? There is another set of teaching unique to the Drukpa lineage at that time that he received. You know, this, when we say they were many highly enlightened masters who were really abiding in the ultimate, he spent 3 months at some time of his life without moving, in meditation. And the 7 Buddhas, that's the story, but for us in the Drukpa lineage is very important. 7 Buddhas appeared. What we call the 7 Buddhas are the 3 Buddhas, 3 last Buddhas of the previous eon, and the 4 Buddhas of this eon, if you know that Buddha Shakyamuni is the 4th one. And they gave him a set of teaching. So these 2 sets of teaching are unique to the Drukpa lineage, but the Drukpa lineage, you got it, is not a possessive one, so now you can find them everywhere. But we are not like that at all. Until 2006, His Holiness the Gewang Drukpa, for instance, to Westerners, said, I don't want you to pronounce the word Drukpa. Was forbidden. He said, if you're in connection with me, it's because the purpose is to realize the nature of your mind. It has nothing to do with name, history, what happened in Tibet, how things developed, nothing to do. But now it has changed, you see, doing this sort of thing. But really, the Drukpa lineage was not at all possessive. I wanted to mention that, but maybe for those who are interested, I'll develop that later because there are so many things to say or to show. Just a reminder, there was, this is called the time of the second diffusion of Buddhism in the Himalayas. And I guess you know the first diffusion happened in the 8th century, so in the 8th century, and it was the work of the kings of Tibet who deliberately, spending a lot of money and effort, imported Buddhism. And this happened a second time. These guys had nothing to do with kings, but this happened with kings, and these teachings, which now are somehow controversial for some reason, some people are playing with that, but we have them. But anyway, they stopped as a lineage by themselves, but they were absorbed by the different lineage that appeared at that time. And we have them. So he was a Kadampa master. He was a Kadampa master teacher. Okay, this is Tilopa. Naropa forgot to put the photo because it's so obvious to me. Yeah, maybe just I want to, but I said it all already. Anyway, he just looked like another good crazy Mahasiddha. Here we are in Tibet, you know, Milarepa. Repa means cotton clad. And you're going to see that the Drukpa masters, the Drukpa lineage, are dressed like that. They don't look like the proper Tibetan monks. They are in the mountains, in the monasteries. They have this cotton robe. It's white because they would not dye it. And it is a meditation belt. And it's a bit shiny because in Ladakh they like to put gold on masters. It's a bit complicated for yogis like that, but they still find places where they can put a few golden flowers. Ladakh was this a part of this big kingdom, which at the time of the second diffusion of Buddhism was a big kingdom. I think I said that before. I just had a class before, so I don't know what I said where. And they had a lot of gold. That's how they could, again, import the teachings. And they would use that gold for the sake of the Dharma, of the Sangha, of the Buddha. And in Vajrayana, the Lama is the Buddha, the Lama is the Dharma, and the Lama is the Sangha. So maybe you're not so familiar with the images of Rijjhumpa. He has a nice hat. and also some gold. Just to, I think it's good that you see him. This is Linchen Repa, the guru of the first Garang Drukpa. It's another mirror in another monastery. You can see he's a Repa. This is someone I just presented before, so just for fun, I'm adding him again. He's the guru of the most famous of all the Garang Drukpa. The most famous of the Garang Drukpa is the fourth one, Kunkyen Tamakapo, the omniscient white lotus. That's his guru, full of gold. And okay, so I also could have shown an image of Sampagiri. I must say my PowerPoint is not completely finalized, but I will be very happy to share images with you if you want, whatever you want, maps, pictures. I think there are several reasons, 3 reasons why the Drukpa Lineage is not so much documented in the West, in English. One reason is, as I said, they don't produce books. Scholars don't like that. Second reason is that it's a bit complicated, because what happened from the moment it was founded, it started to branch out, and this can always happen with this lineage. This is one set of students of the first Garang Drukpa. He had, usually it is said, 3 sets of students, because what he would do, the people would come to him in this place like Druk, if you remember, and they would not build anything. It's forbidden. You don't build. We are not here to build monasteries. So a hut or a tent to meditate, get the teaching, and until you are not completely clear about what ultimate realization means and how you're going to get it, it's fine to stay there and to study and to get the teaching and clarify, have no doubt. And when it's done, what he did is he sent everyone away. Go. Now you go and you live your life and you get enlightened. And these guys were homeless hermits. And he did that 3 times. So in the 3rd round, and at each town we have names of the most important disciples. At the 3rd round, these are the 3 most important, and they are the founders of 3 Drukpa lineage. This is called Teduk, Meduk, Baduk. Most of us, we say Teduk means upper Drukpa, median Drukpa, Meduk, lower Drukpa, but upper and lower, I don't know what it means. And I investigated. It means it's about the Brahmaputra River crossing the whole of Tibet. So what they call upper means the Western Himalayas, and what they call lower is the Eastern Tibet. That's all. And because upper and lower may sound like one is better than the other, I use now Western and Eastern. And these people, you will find their name. They are quoted by everyone, because they were just indivisible. 3 of them are called Jawa. I know some of you are more into Sanskrit or Pali. Jawa is Jina. It's a word we use only for Buddhists. But they are known as Jawa Gonsapa, Jawa Yonggonpa, Jawa Loreba. Really enlightened masters. And you find them, I found them, I like to read teaching that really guide you for your renunciation, not being attached to the world, and go straight to, think you're going to die next minute, and therefore concentrate on the best. The most important, which nowadays for me is history, not the nature of my mind. But and when I read book, can be related to His Holiness Dalai Lama and his master like Pabunka, and things related to the Lamrim. They quote these people. Or I like to read Junja Rinpoche, who's very close to my heart. He's a great Nyingma master. He's quoting them, because when you want to guide people and you want reference in the past, these are the best. Okay, I didn't know where to put that one. I just put it there. That's the Western Himalayas. That's where my research focuses on. Well, Kathmandu would be somewhere here. Delhi would be somewhere here. Here is Ladakh, and at some point this was this big kingdom. From here to here. That was the case in the 10th century, 11th, 12th, 16th, sometimes maybe 13th, 14th. And when it was founded as a big entity, it was these kings of who had brought Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche, in the 8th century. This lineage, this dynasty collapsed in Tibet. Tibet as an empire collapsed in the 9th century. But the kings migrated. They had their first capital here, somewhere here. Then the capital moved. And sometimes the capital was, it's not on this map, in She, in Ladakh. And sometimes they would split into 3, sometimes they would become 1, someone it would split into 10, but until today. They are still here today. So today we have a border somewhere here. This is now China, this is Nepal, this is India, this is Pakistan. But this is still Ladakh. Now it's part of India, but the king is still there. Maybe I'll come back to that map later, because I'm going to talk about what I know best, of course. These are Drukpa masters of this area. The founder of Hemis, I'll show you, and the king of Zanskar. That's the king of Zanskar in the early 17th century. I think his hat is my hat. Oh, I must tell you the story. Please ask me the question at the end. You see, he's a king, but he's a yogi, and he was called Zogi, which is the way the Tibetans pronounce yogi. This is Taksanripa, the founder of Hemis, which is the biggest monastery in Ladakh. And I quote him, sorry, I just did that when you were arriving, so it's too much text. But can we read it? Do you want to take a few minutes and just read it, or I don't know? Yeah? Or maybe I present the context in just 1 minute. I thought you would be interested into that. You have seen him. Here he is. You recognize this sort of dress. This is not traditional monastic Buddhist monasticism. And he was a great meditator. He was enlightened. But of course he was not enlightened from the first day onward. And at some point he went to meditate to some very challenging place. And then he met a scholar who told him, in order to be entitled as a religious practitioner, one must be a full-fledged ordained monk alone. The teaching of Buddha will be preserved by ordained monks, while there is no mention of yogi fashion like yours in the teaching. If you do not study Buddha's teaching, you cannot correct your meditation. So acquire knowledge to start with. That is important. That is from his biography. In reply to this word, I said, well, my English is not so good, maybe I should stop reading. And then there is a song. We can jump to the song. Can you read? Is it big enough? I can read the last if you cannot read down. Yes? So, he said, as a means to dispel obstacles and progress. I read from here, or maybe anyone wants to read with the proper English?
You read very well, you're fine.
I'm fine? Okay. So you can read from here, or I read from here? You read. I have the wish to be enlightened in one lifetime, and therefore I do whatever my root guru instructs me to do. I seek this grace with one pointed concentration through prayer. In that way, I have gained the power to transfer the stream of blessing of the lineage into my being, and I have recognized the ultimate nature of my mind. I don't need to rely on outer material effects or highly structured actions. As a means to dispel obstacles and progress, I only employ devotion. That is good enough. In our precious lineage, this is called the universal remedy, which makes all paths to be traversed with great momentum. You do not know that. Yoga actually means that method and wisdom are united, non-dual. Yoga abides in the three disciplines. Nevertheless, somehow that does not accord with the behavior of monasticism. Therefore, please listen to this song. I don't have the melody, huh?
Sure.
Then I sang. And this is all my translation, so maybe if you have a doubt, that means the one who is meditating on the ultimate nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a classical poesy to take animals, and the Tibetan is the eagle who's soaring so high, and the Indian peacock that goes well together, and then we have the Shravakakeshi.
Mm.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all. That's all for Tsunma, the founder of Hemis, which has 200 branches, monasteries all over the Western Himalayas. This doesn't look very nice. This is not a very nice painting, but it's very interesting. It's in one remote temple in Zanskar. And as I say, we have no books in the Drukpa Lineage. And someone very kindly painted the what we call the sercheng, the golden garland. Garland. The golden garland is just a usual word to say masters, the line of the masters. And the one who are relevant to Zanskar. So for me, it's like a history book. And I think this one is not very nice. Maybe this one a bit better. What is interesting, because we call this lineage the yogic tradition, you have a few masters, and some of them we can recognize. This one is Tsunma, we just heard him speaking. He's recognizable because he has a special hat, because he went to Pakistan in search for the blessing of the root of tantras and things like that. So he was wearing the turban. And what I wanted to show is, you see the number of yogis. We can count them, but it's a lot of yogis. But not only that, we do have monks, and it seems we have a good number of monks. I wanted to show a detail. This is a full-fledged monk. This one is naked. Upper robe is missing, and there's the meditation bed. And same here, and here, but same here. So even those who look like, when we don't pay attention, they look like they are just proper monks. Actually, they are yogis. And actually, this is certainly one of the Gyalwang Drukpa. So he has to show, for the sake of the followers, the monks, the practitioners, if everybody just goes like that, some people are misled, unfortunately. They take no discipline. So usually the Gyalwang Drukpa, all of the Gyalwang Drukpa, wear the monastic and try to behave inside the freedom. Outside they try to behave. Yeah. These are cosmic masters again. He was the guru of the king of Kathmandu in the when the what was his name, the Gorkha king. And his relics were brought from Kashmir, because he went to Kashmir, were brought from Kashmir and put in a stupa in Kathmandu, now this place called Bodhnath, maybe you know, and that's the first ever stupa built by Tibetans. And it would take several centuries before other stupas are built in Tibetan style by Tibetans in Kathmandu. He did that. He did also restore the ancient stupas like Bodhnath and Swayambhunath. This is the founder of the state of Bhutan. Just to show, you see, it's a monk, but he's not exactly a monk. And he's wearing the same hat, but he's wearing the blue collar. Only the enlightened one can do that. We, the monks and nuns, we have to wear the proper collar. By the way, yeah, we'll keep that for the end. Just a word about Bhutan. But those who know a little bit about Tibetan language, but means Tibet. Tan is an Asian word for country. So Bhutan means Tibetan country, but Bhutan is not Tibet. It's just a mistake by the British. Who on the map, yeah, I read a scholar, if you want, I'll find the paper. They didn't know about where are these things in the Himalayas, so the name Bhutan, there was no name Tibet in those days. It was moving from one map to another map, having maps of the Himalayas in those days. And eventually things were fixed, and okay, Bhutan was found, and then, oh yeah, and that is Tibet. But Bhutan is called the Drukpa country. Some people saying that it is because there is a lot of thunder there. No, it's because he found it in that country. And I wanted to say that it's not only the distant past, like 13th century or the 17th century. These are people who lived in the 19th century, and they are cosmic, really highly realized enlightened masters. He's very known also among the Nyingmata. And he was in Tibet, but he was originally from Ladakh. I will not elaborate now, I think, just the pleasure of sharing these pictures, because it is believed in the Himalayas, in the Tibetan culture, that when you have a connection, eye connection with enlightenment, well, you get a blessing. These are not many yogis externally yogis, they are all highly advanced yogis, and you can see people from different lineages. Here is Tsunma who just passed away a few weeks ago. This is Drukpa Lineage. So he's the master, they are the disciples. This is Nyingma master, this is Bukhara Rinpoche, this is the Tufu Rinpoche, who's Drukpa, and the other, I don't know, it's quite an old photo. Just to say, an enlightened Drukpa master, or any enlightened master, why put the word Drukpa? Whoever comes and is able to receive enlightenment, of course they give. So it's open for everyone. Tsunma Nawang, of whom we have read a little bit of his songs before, there was a time when a Drukpa monastery in the western Himalayas was forcefully taken by the Gelugpa. This happened a lot between Tibet and Ladakh. And people were amazed because he didn't react. And they say, hey, you don't do anything? He said, well, the Dharma doesn't belong to anyone, whoever is able to take it, to practice it. And he didn't do anything. These are a bunch of yogis who are quite famous. I don't know why. They live in Himachal Pradesh. Well, maybe they are spectacular. They have very long hair. I don't know how realized, but they are very serious practitioners. They have their website, and they are quite famous in the West. the Tokren of Tashijong, if you know. This is Apo Rinpoche, great enlightened yogi. This is very recent. It's a group of monks who just did their 3 years retreat. You see how they come out with long hair and meditation there. But most of them will not be allowed to stay there. That's for the sake of discipline and showing good example, etc. And I could have started with him. He is organized the Drukpa. He can wear the hat, the blue color. Just wanted to show. These are recent photos. He did something lately he's been wearing the meditation belt on his robe. And I think it's just, it's not I think, I know. He told his yogis, like these guys, he told them really to keep their practice, their yoga, which means the union of wisdom and the compassion and the guiding in the ultimate. He told them to keep it all the time. And I know some of them, and they don't like to wear that. First, they think it's like very showing off. Mm-hmm. So, is it showing off? Well, His Holiness the Gyalwang Lupa himself is wearing it, and you find that on the internet. It's a bit. It's saying we have to be serious. Forget about showing off or not showing off. And that's just a reminder for the pleasure. And that's another contemporary Drukpa master. Okay. Now, in a picture, it was said that half of the world is Drukpa, half of the Drukpas are beggars, half of the beggars are seekers. That is at the time of when it was branching out, as I said. So you see, it's a lot of people, but these are people you don't notice if you're not interested in beggars. I don't know who's interested in beggars. And well, we are interested in Siddhas, but the Siddhas will never say we are Drukpa. And I mentioned Suduk, Meduk, Baduk, the three branches. The saying was, like the stars in the sky, not in the Oxford sky or the London sky, Himalayan sky, means it's full. Like the vegetation on the earth, like the speck of dust in the sunbeams. And then there were so many sayings, like the best students, the best accomplished disciples who reach the rainbow body, they will go in the realm of the Devas, of the Nagas, and some other realms of humans. The average one will go to Odyana, Shambhala, very crazy, amazing places. And the lowest will go from Jalandhara to China. That is what the saying is. And I'll come to a map later, but there's another saying, and there's a story. Please ask me the story at the end, because I decided to restrict the number of stories. The glorious teaching spread as far as the vulture flies in 18 days. It doesn't mean anything in our culture how flies vulture. So I googled it. And that's the distance and average commercial airline plane travel at about 30 to 40,000 feet, and there are some vultures who can fly at that. It means you have something flying very, very high and very far. And that's a map. So this is Jalandhara. This is Rajagir, because he would send his disciples in any holy places, especially the tantric places. China, I don't know where he sent them. Yeah, of course, the chicken foot mountain, I don't know where it is. But that's quite a lot. In the 13th, 14th century, it's really spread. The saying that half of the world Drukpa or flight as vulture flight, it really does say something. And as a historian, I can be skeptical, but I know that in the late 16th century, when the 5th Gyalwang Lupa was enthroned somewhere here, there were people coming from Jalandhara, because they would say people came from the Dutch, and this is the prince from here, the ruler of that, this, the abbot of this, and people came from here. So I don't know why would they come from Jalandhara. Jalandhara today is a town that used to be a kingdom around the 10th, 13th century. Okay. So I cannot investigate all of that as a historian, but I have found some data on that area, and I'm going to present you a zoom here. And it's a bit a tricky subject, but it's a well-known subject. It's about the relics of Sampagari, Dogen Sampagari, the first Gyalwang Lupa. So these relics, there are 21 of them. One of them is extremely famous. It's called Rangjung Kasavani. Kasavani, I think, is Sanskrit. It's a two-arm form of Avalokiteshvara. This is very famous because this is zoom, it's big like that. I don't know, 1 inch. I don't know English measure, but it's very small. So it's zoom. It's in a glass globe, blood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from his rib. And it's very famous because it's the most precious treasure of the state of Bhutan. And Bhutan was created, the reason, the whole story, it goes back to this relic. So this at least is well known by people who know the history of Bhutan. They may be Westerners, they may be wherever, but this relic is well known, and it's so well known that we can get a picture because, you know, these things, collectors are very, very hungry of this sort of objects. So it's in them, so we cannot see them easily. This is where it is. It's in Bhutan, in Punakazon. And I had the great pleasure. Oh, what happened? I had the great pleasure. I took the photo of this one. This is also this small. Here is the bone. Here is the form in the middle, and that's a golden box, and that's broken. And it's in a small monastery where I lived when I wrote the first book, the guidebook on the holy places of Lahore. And he allowed me to take a photo, and it's completely mind-blowing. Speechless. It's incredible. It's really the bone sort of has protuberance and take a shape. And when I'm back in my room for a few days, I'm completely like in heaven. And after a few days, it's like, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. But I remember when I saw it, it's completely natural. And it's so the different, the 21 relics of Dogen Sampagare, the first Kavandupa, all are four different forms of Avalokiteshvara. And this one is a 1,000 arms. So for those who are not familiar, I have taken a photo from my collection. I have thousands of photos. I didn't look, for hours. So but anyway, it gives you an idea. It has 11 heads, so heads like that and heads on the side. 8 main arms and 1,000 arms. I don't know if you can see. Here are the heads and here are the arms. And why I'm mentioning that, it's a bit, it's because there is a document which says where these relics are. And this document is from the middle of the 16th century, but it's tracking a little bit of history. This document is by the Kunkente Makapo, the most famous Gerong Dupa in terms of scholarship. He knew everything about everything, but he especially wrote history books. And one thing that he did is that he did a sort of register of one of his monasteries, which is the monastery of Moraluk. Druk, you remember, this is where the dragon appeared, and this is the origin of the Drukpa Lineage. And he was not nothing. Actually, he was describing in Jalung where the relics are. Some are in stupa, some are in statues, some are here, some are there. And in passing, he just said a few words, and then one is here, two are here, two are here. And I decided to make a map. And what I found is, we are here. This was the ancient capital of Marikorsum, the first capital. And he said before it was there, then it moved to Google. But I'm interested into the earliest record we can have of where these relics are. So at one point it was here. He said it moved to Google. I know there is one in the hand of the king of Ladakh. Nobody knows. I asked the Ladakhi, they don't know. But I have some connection with some people, and I know someone who has seen it. Plus, there is a biography of a Buddhist master who went there to Ladakh, and he says he saw. So I have no doubt it was there in the 18th century, and it is still there. And I suppose it is this one who's been moving. Kunkente Makapo says that one moved to camp, so in his days, or before his days. And there is the one which I had mentioned, which led to the creation of the kingdom of Bhutan. It came from Jalung. It's the most famous one. So just to say that the saying that the vulture who fly for 18 days, I think, is grounded. Special reputation. This is another great Tibetan historian. He wrote something about the Drukpa followers. He wrote about all the masters and all the lineages. And this, I think, is interesting because it tells something which is very important to understand this self-effacing characteristic of not debating. They never say to someone, you're wrong. You didn't understand emptiness properly. They never say that. They say, they don't say anything. They are not meant to say anything. And this is Tony Huber. Maybe you know him much better than me because I only read his books and a few of his papers. I think he's an excellent scholar. And he wrote a book on Holy Land Reborn, is how Tibetans viewed India and created a new image of India as their Holy Land. And he noticed, of course, that's exactly what the Drukpa Lineage is, that the Drukpa followers, of course, they skewed the modern world in favor of practicing the wilderness in remote location, but the remote location is interesting, so that it further gained the well-deserved reputation in Tibet as long-distance spiritual travelers and pilgrims for excellence, which tells you really about this bunch of beggars and hermits. And a word on the divine madmen. Let's see what left I have. Then I have the whole set of teachings. And how much time left do I have?
It's 20 past 6.
Okay, so I have -5. Well, some of them are extremely famous. Drukpa Lineage is extremely famous. You maybe all have heard about him. He was just crazy. And he's so crazy that people love him because he would behave like they like people to behave. Like he would look for sexual partners, or he would mock the hypocrisy of the monastic system, or he would not respect people who were supposed to be respected but were not respectable. And he would really do it in provocative way. So he's very popular over the whole Himalayas. So these three are when you speak about Tibetan or Himalayan culture and this phenomena of divine madmen, these are the main ones. Three of them are Drukpa. Samyen Heruka. There are a few Western scholars nowadays studying him. They are rather deconstructivists that they say, he found the proper marketing way. He was provocative. That was just calculation. I don't think so. Personally, knowing the Drukpa yogis, they are not into calculating anything. And I think this is exactly why when there was a big mess in Tibet and civil wars that lasted for decades and decades, rulers were seeking as priests Drukpa yogis, naked guys in the cave, because they were not into calculation. For sure. Then they could the kings could continue their politics, but with the help of some blessing. Samyen Heruka is mostly famous because all what we know when we are just common readers of Milarepa, what we know is his life and his songs. The one who wrote them down is Samyen Heruka. This also tells something about where his heart was. Oh, it's interesting. In the days of Sampayare, there was it was said that he gave 3 types of teachings. I will just mention the first one. The Guru as the Trikaya. Trikaya means Dhammakaya, Samubhakaya, Nirmanakaya. It means the Guru is the Buddha. You may have heard about that, about Tibetan Buddhism, but this is just central. Love, only compassion, causality, independence, origination, great union, which is Mahamudra. And this is quite important in the Drukpa Lineage. I'll go that in the next slide. And the reverse method of meditation, which is very related to practice. That is, the reverse method of meditation means do just the opposite of what you would spontaneously do. spontaneously, you avoid suffering. The practice is go and jump into suffering. And that is what the crazy madmen, this divine madman will do. Oh, there's a king there. Everybody, oh, and he goes and just create a big mess. And that is reverse method. That you really have to, if you do that, you take so much challenges, you really have to get rid of your ego in a way. It's not possible. So it's very powerful practice, but of course you have to be advanced enough to be able to do that. This is why these guys were very advanced and eventually called the divine madmen. They were enlightened and they were doing things crazy. Okay, usually, at least in Tibetan Buddhism, we present the teaching as saying there is the path, the base, the path, the fruit, and sometimes we divide it, and it's quite related with the view, the meditation, and the conduct. The main thing is the view. The view in the Drukpa Lineage is Mahamudra. I know some scholars in the West translate that, and I know they have good reasons in their tradition. They call it the Great Seal, like you put the stamp of what, I don't know, emptiness or the ultimate on all phenomena. We don't call it like that. Mahamudra Sagya Chenpo means great union. Mudra is the union. So it's about, we can say at the sutra level, Madhyamika. But you unite, I would say, let's just stop here, but it's all comes together. Appearances and emptiness, maybe. Or if you want, you can say Samsara. Anyway, that's the view. Compassion, emptiness, rigid truth, ultimate truth. The meditation is the sixth Dhamma of Naropa. So in Tibetan it's not yoga, the six yogas of Naropa. This one is very famous because it's very helpful. Just as a memory, but you can find nowadays many books, even in English, the yogas of Naropa, this and that, the inner heat, dream yoga. It's full of books. I can tell you none of these books are written by Drukpa people. I guess, I hope you understood. This is one important message. This is quite related to the divine madman. This is the teaching that Richungpa got when he went back to India, if you remember. There's a whole story, another story, beautiful story, what happened to him when he went to India. And this set of teachings, they are available now for everyone. They are practiced in other lineages. And the idea is to be beyond hope and fear. So it's very much like the reverse meditation. Huh? Like you go and you take like conceptual thoughts, they become your path. Affective emotion, they become your path. Sickness is your path. Jiva, ghosts and spirits, well, to us it doesn't mean anything, but you know that in the Himalayas or in Asia, in traditional Asia, this is a big thing. It becomes your path. Suffering is your path. Death is your path. And this is in daily life. It's not about sitting. So this gives this special style of the divine mind. This is just too much text. I think this is what the Gyalwang got from the 7 Buddhas. You remember? He got a teaching. It's called the Sevenfold Interdependence. And frankly, I never received this teaching, so I don't know exactly. What I know is we have a prayer that we all do when I say, may I master the skill of interdependence. We say that after saying, through compassion may I liberate others, which comes after through realization may I get liberated. Through compassion may I liberate others, and may I master the skill of interdependence. So here, dependent origination is a skill. It's not just how the world works, it's how you become able to liberate others. Because it's not like a sensory being like me. I create karma all the time, and I will have to, everything I do is cause and effect. an enlightened being or someone very advanced in yoga, it's not a question of karma. The action is wisdom action, so what you do is you create causes and conditions that liberate others. And that gave something very special, and I don't know how far this explains something you will find all over the Himalayas. I don't know if it comes from this set of teaching. It's a cultural almost obsession. I said observation, but it's almost obsession with coincidence. I didn't plan that, but I got the email just this morning. You see, this is the same master. He's young, he's old. He has white hair. They have put flour to make it white, as a creating the connection with him living long. Mm-hmm. I heard about the trick that they did for these photos. It's playing with coincidence and circumstances, and it's playing, but it's playing for the sake of enlightenment. I didn't know. I chose that just to show the meditation bed. I'm nearing the end. I just wanted to say, oh yeah, of course, no word for that. We don't read books. I heard His Holiness the Nawang Jinpa in London maybe 15 years ago saying to the English audience, you don't need any books. You need to know how to be a disciple. You need books like the Life of Milarepa to know what it means to be a disciple. And it's a bit demanding actually to do that, but that's the most profound. Plus, this is the means to obtain the right view through the Guru Yoga. If you don't know, then you ask me. I'll leave you. And speaking about Dogom, I decided to finish on that. This is Kemo Tingvin. She came last year. I put it as a Dogom because His Holiness the Nawang Jinpa is now promoting his nuns. He allows them to lead very elaborate tantric rituals. He not only allows, he encourages them to practice Kung Fu, and I can tell you, he gets heavily criticized for that. He's losing support from within his own tradition, even some Rinpoches in the Drukpa Lineage. Well, I mean, everyone, it's just like they think it's not appropriate. And I think, even though he's already enlightened, I think he's into Dogam. He doesn't care, he do the crazy thing. And that's all. Thank you.